Where's God? Like his actual place of residence? Have you really thought about it? Sometimes I think we gloss over it without that deep of a thought on the subject. Is he out there? Is he everywhere? Or he's nowhere? Pick your lane. If God is out there beyond the universe, then reality runs mostly on its own. Incarnation becomes a visit, a divine interruption, a temporary crossing of distance. If God is everywhere, fully diffused through everything, then distortion gets harder to explain. Because if everything is divine, then nothing is truly misaligned. It's all just unfolding. And if God is nowhere, then the universe is closed. Meaning is manufactured. Coherence is optional. Morality becomes preference with social consequences. Those are the three. Out there, everywhere, nowhere. Each one solves one problem and creates another. Out there preserves transcendence, but risks distance. Everywhere preserves presence, but risks dissolving distinction. Nowhere preserves autonomy, but risks collapsing meaning. But notice what all three share. They assume the same thing, that to be present is to occupy a position. To be somewhere is to be a thing inside the system, located, contained, placed. That's a human way to think about it. And that assumption is the real mistake. Not the question, the physics underneath it. Because God was never absent. Not distant, not out there, not everywhere, but unknowable. Present, the way the key a song is written in lives in every note, without being a note. Every note is measured against it, which is exactly why a note can be off. So what fractured wasn't God's proximity. It was our alignment with God's coherence. Because if God is out there, incarnation is just arrival. If God is everywhere, incarnation is redundant. If God is nowhere, incarnation is mythology. But if coherence is real, if there is a center that holds meaning, truth, and being together, then incarnation becomes something else entirely. Not a visit, not a metaphor, a field reset. Christ isn't a ladder to somewhere else. Christ is coherence embodied inside distortion, not dissolving transcendence, not spreading divinity like mist, entering misalignment without becoming misaligned. And here's why that's even possible. Everything else curves because its coherence is on loan, borrowed, and what's borrowed can be lost. Christ doesn't borrow coherence, he is its source. The center can step into the distortion because the center cannot become what it generates. A thing cannot be emptied of itself. That means the problem wasn't that God was too far, and it wasn't that God was too hidden. It was that we curved inward. We fractured meaning. We weaponized belief. We normalized distortion. And Christ didn't shout corrections from outside the system. He stepped into it, as a human, and held coherence without breaking. That's not just moral teaching. That's structural, which changes everything. If God is nowhere, then alignment is optional. If God is everywhere in the flattening sense, then alignment is irrelevant. But if God is transcendent source and embodied coherence, if Christ is the intersection where transcendence becomes visible without collapsing into the system, then alignment isn't optional or automatic. It's participatory. Faith stops being agreement. It becomes orientation. Salvation stops being escape. It becomes re-entry into the Christic coherence. So maybe the real divide isn't believer versus atheist. Maybe it's this. Do you think coherence is real? Or do you think distortion is normal? But be careful here. You can believe coherence is real and still keep it impersonal. A pattern, a law, a structure that holds, because structures hold. That's not yet the claim. The claim is heavier. A law can be coherent, only a person can be faithful. The center doesn't hold meaning, truth, and being together by accident of structure. It holds them on purpose. You can discover a structure. Fidelity has to be shown. That's why Christ reveals coherence rather than invents it. Not a new pattern dropped into the system. The face of the center that was holding it the whole time. So the question isn't where is God? The question is, what in your life is still calibrated as if there is no center?